Hello and welcome to this webinar from Kelso Consulting on successful blogging for consultancy businesses. Just first of all, a few housekeeping points. After this webinar, tomorrow or next working day, you'll be getting a video, a copy of this. You'll also get it as a podcast so that you can listen to it when you're out jogging or driving around. We will be doing, we'll certainly be taking questions at the end, but if you've got questions that come up as we go along, do fire them through in the meantime, and I can take those as we go along. So what are we going to be covering today? Well, really it's everything to do with launching, sustaining or reinvigorating a blogging campaign as for your business. We'll be looking briefly at why businesses blog, how long should your blogs be, how often, how to find the time, how to come up with topics, the all-important challenge of getting colleagues engaged, measuring the impact, and any other questions you have as we go along. To introduce myself, I'm Tim Priceman. I'm a director with Kelso Consulting, and I've been doing that job of advising accountancy, financial consultancy, professional firms for quite some time. Long while ago, I was doing this role in-house at such big firms as Deloitte, Arthur Andersen, which at the time I was there had the best reputation in the sector, and I've picked up 4 national awards along the way for the PR and marketing campaigns I've devised and delivered, and we've already got at the moment Christmas stuff in the shops as this webinar is being done. So if you're thinking of early Christmas presents or indeed birthday presents for loved ones, my book, The Thought Leadership Manual, is available, makes the perfect present. It's available on Amazon, or if you don't like big evil tech companies, it's available on Wordery as well and would be the perfect thing for your loved ones. There's lots of people on here who know Kelso Consulting. Big welcome to you. There's some people on here who are new to us as well. So just to let you know, we are a public relations agency. That means we're all about building strong reputation, the sort of thing we do for clients. Certainly deliver them national media coverage and indeed international media coverage. As mentioned, a particular area of ours is helping them devise and deliver strong thought leadership campaigns that position them as experts in particular areas, particular sectors, markets, whatever. We help clients getting awards, we help them with speaking at industry events, we help them with the effective use of LinkedIn, as the people on your LinkedIn are probably the people most likely to give you work, so you should be making the most of that. And indeed we particularly help people with blogging and launching blogging programs, writing stuff for them, generally making sure it's very effective for them. Now, first of all, why blog? And it's worth going back to a book issued in 1993 from David Maister, who is and was the guru on professional firm management. His book, Managing the Professional Services Firm, which came out 26 years ago, primarily about law firms, but actually hugely applicable to all sorts of professional and knowledge-based businesses. And in it, he wrote, marketing works when it demonstrates, not when it asserts. Marketing tactics that illustrates one's competence, such as speeches, seminars and articles, are infinitely more powerful than those that simply assert it. He was writing before the internet was known about. But nowadays, even though he's retired, he has a blog, he has a vlog, and he has a website with all sorts of demonstrations of his expertise still on it, even though he has retired. And if he was writing nowadays, and indeed for the stuff he's done subsequently, he talks about the importance of blogging, because ultimately blogging is simply the placing of articles online. So we'll be talking about blogging, but just about everything I say will equally apply to vlogging, which is doing videos online where you talk to camera or whatever it is you're doing. So I won't particularly be going into vlogging, but whenever I say blogging, I generally mean blogging and vlogging. So as David Maister highlights, key benefit number one, this is particularly relevant to consultancy businesses and other professional businesses providing high value services. It demonstrates your knowledge and positions you as an expert. This is particularly important because we're in a highly competitive marketplace. There are a large number of equally qualified professionals with firms with equally smart websites and similar client lists. All the people in their firm went to, and your competitors went to similar universities, did similar qualifications. In fact, given that people move around, it's often the same people. They worked at your competitors, now they work with you. So to a client, you all look largely the same. How do you start to differentiate yourself? Well, it's through demonstrating not just that you've got all the great qualifications and the track record, but by demonstrating your insights and your knowledge, as that really is the key differentiator for you. So number one, it provides a very visible demonstration of your knowledge and expertise as a specialist and not just a generalist. Number two, if it's done well, and not all firms want them blogs as a way of attracting people to the website, but many firms do, and we'll be talking about that. Most people nowadays, before they start engaging with a firm, before they start having a sales conversation with them, look them up online, look up a long list of firms, select a short list, and then start engaging. And that applies as much to consultancy services as it does to B2B products, or indeed B2C products. And if you're looking for people who are searching around for your sorts of services on Google or on LinkedIn or wherever they're searching, having lots of content on a blog, on your website around that particular topic is a very powerful way to attract additional leads. A lot of marketing now, I mentioned LinkedIn, is all around reusing social media and of course reusing email marketing, things like this. Having blogs creates powerful content which you can then use to make your social media work. After all, social media needs great content to work. And ultimately, through the sorts of things I've talked about and widely reused in your blogs and the content in them, as long as they're good, well, it will generate clients. It's all a good part of the attraction conversion process for clients. Historically, people have thought of blogs, the way to go about them is that they're there to build up a list of subscribers. I have to say there's millions of blogs out there now, so it is terribly hard to build a list of subscribers. It's nice if this happens, but the success of your blog won't depend on the list of subscribers. It will depend on the other things you do about it, such as sending it by email, sending it through social media, and search engine optimizing it. Now, clearly the common problems people encounter with blogs, and having a blogging program at their business. And you just have to look, and you'll have probably seen this, whether it's your firm or elsewhere. The content can be cobwebby, the activity ad hoc. People suddenly think, oh, we haven't done anything on the blog recently, we need to get some stuff posted, and suddenly lots of random stuff is going up there to get the job ticked and move on. People can find it hard to come up with ideas. Partly because of that, it means it's a struggle to get people at your business to contribute. Maybe it's a problem to get you to contribute. The whole thing ends up being treated as an afterthought, and because of all these things, it then has little obvious impact, and because there's no impact, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. People won't contribute any further, and you're in a downward spiral. So it's worth bearing in mind, because we'll be tackling all these problems, is that what you need to bear in mind, and one of the common comments I get from people is, we'll only blog when we have something worth blogging about. Now, that's great if your tactic is to have 1 or 2 blogs and send them to your existing list of people, and that's all you're going to do with it. And that is a legitimate tactic, but for most people, they're looking for their blogs to attract people. And one thing is very important, that, and I'll be quoting HubSpot a few times. HubSpot, for those people who don't know it, is blogging and inbound marketing platform. We use it at Kelso. I have to say it's quite a sophisticated and good one. It is quite expensive though as well, but it's used by around 30,000 businesses worldwide, so it has a large amount of data to draw on. And one of the things that they highlight is that their research shows that the more blogs you have, the more inbound leads you get. Maybe that's not particularly surprising. And how do you get more blogs? Well, you could write several hundred at once. Wouldn't advise it, and that will also lead you the problem that what do you do next time? But what HubSpot does find is, not surprisingly, the more blogs you have, the more leads you get. And the best way to have more blogs is to blog regularly. So, which builds us on to the next question, is how frequently should I be blogging? Well, there's a number of things to consider, but ultimately monthly is better than weekly. Monthly is better than never, weekly is better than monthly, and if you're in a luxurious position of being a good writer with lots of time and lots of things to talk about, daily is better than weekly. But ultimately, consistency is king, and that is consistency of quality and consistency of regularity. Again, what HubSpot finds is that if you look at the figures, and the relevant ones here are the orange ones, which is B2B. If you blog frequently, you get more traffic. Why might that be? Well, there's a number of things. First of all, Google likes the total number of blogs. So if you blog frequently, you're more likely to have a big total. But on top of that, Google likes websites that are regularly updating themselves. And if it's seeing your website through the blog is being updated 2 or 3 times a week or 2 or 3 times a month, it rates you much more highly accordingly to that. I would also guess, although this is a guess, that those people who blog regularly get more sophisticated about promoting it to their network and social media, and so they get more inbound traffic and more inbound leads because they have a bit more of a process, and they're that much more switched on to making the most of every blog because they have more of them, rather than if you blog once a month, maybe you're not going to have as slick processes in place. And indeed, it's not just the amount of traffic, as the previous charts were showing. It is it's the number of inbound leads. Now, what I would say is that you'll have to excuse me. I'm just about to sneeze. Unscheduled interruption there. Oh no, it's gone away. I'll continue. Apologies. With monthly, the more frequently you post monthly, the more inbound leads you get. What I'd say with HubSpot is HubSpot will be measuring this through, I suspect, the number of times people click call to action and things like that. If your business is like mine, most leads tend to actually come through people reading your website and then picking up the phone, which probably aren't captured in this, so this may well be an underestimate. Either way, the more you blog, and once you get to blogging more frequently, that you get a disproportionate amount of leads to it. But that's not to say you shouldn't be, if you can't manage it several times, you shouldn't be doing it at all. It's just saying that whatever is manageable for you, you need to stick to it and build up the consistency. So the next question, and we'll be coming back to a few other points at the moment, is should the blogs be long or short? Now, I think with consultants, many of them naturally think that because we're about demonstrating expertise, blogs should always be long. You will often hear people say, oh, everyone on the internet has the attention span of a gadfly. They only read the first 3 paragraphs, so you need to only bother with short snippets. Now, that's not the case. As with reading a newspaper, very few people read every single article cover to cover. People skim across the newspaper, they'll read the headline, the first few paragraphs, and then they'll decide whether they want to invest the time in reading the rest of the article in the newspaper. It's exactly the same on the internet. People skim to see if it's worth their while, and then they will plough through it if it is. And the important thing is the people who look at your article and disappear off aren't the people you're after. The people who look at your article think, that's really interesting, this is a big problem for my business, these guys sound like they know what they're about, I'll read the full article. Those are the people you're after. So it's more a question of how many people stay with it to the end than how many people bounce out. Although if you've got a very high bounce rate, either your topic isn't very relevant to a lot of people or your targeting is way off. Anyway, the important point, first of all, for attracting leads is that Google likes long articles. And for instance, the average Google first page result, and as we know, if you're not on Google first page, you're missing probably 95% of the traffic, is quite long. The average article is 1,800, nearly 1,900 words. So that shows that a lot of those articles are far longer than that. So Google does like long articles. Long articles typically attract more social shares. This might seem strange, but in the business-to-business world, people are more likely to like and share thorough, knowledgeable content. And of course, going back to what consultants implicitly know, in-depth articles really and truly demonstrates your authority, your knowledge to readers. Now, this is all really good in favour of long blogs, but now the question is, long blogs take an awful lot of time. They might take a lot of research. Tim was saying we need, HubSpot says you need to blog frequently. We can't come up with 2,000 word articles all the time. And this is exactly right. You need to have a balance of them. And within your blogging program, the key thing is to be getting regularity, but not always feeling that you need to do 2,000 words on each occasion. You can say an awful lot with well-crafted 450 words as well. So the key thing is, to my mind, is to certainly invest time now and again to get in these really thorough ones, and perhaps these are the ones that you will promote the most, but you also need to factor in shorter blogs, 450, 500, 400 word type length, to get a frequency so that you're not just blogging once every 2 months. So, how do you come up with ideas? Because after all, this could mean a lot, and it's certainly where a lot of blogs fall down, is people have 3 good ideas then can't think of anything else. Now, there's a number of parts to this. The first part is that my observation is most businesses actually have a large amount of great content in them that they don't exploit very much. I often come across consultancy firms who put a lot of effort into thought leadership, and they've written 1 blog on the subject. Oh, we've done this big initiative, we'll do a blog on it. They've spent 6 months of time on it, and they've done 1 blog and moved on. So the first thing I'd say is look back within your business for really good content. This could be initiatives where indeed you've only done 1 thing and there's plenty of stuff that can be exploited from it. It could be slide presentations, it could be webinars such as this where there's lots of material from it. It could be presentations to clients, it could be all sorts of things, but typically your organisation, through the work you've done over the past few years, has a lot of great content that really hasn't been exploited very much. And clearly repurposing this into a series of blogs is a very quick win. However, moving on beyond this, there are lots of areas that can inspire new ideas. The first thing is the sorts of thing clients ask you, sort of thing prospects ask. There's all sorts of questions that come up. One of our, as an example, one of the top trafficking blogs that Kelso Consulting has on ours is a simple blog on how to get the most from your PR agency. And that is consistently one of our highest traffic blogs. It appears prominently on Google for various searches, and it's the sort of thing that people search a lot on Google. So if your clients are asking it, people are searching also on the internet. And also, if your clients are asking it and someone asks it to you, you can say, oh, I've got a blog on that. Let me send you the link after our meeting, and it's a great follow-up. So the sorts of things that clients ask are great topics for blogs. You'll often encounter the same common problems at firms. We think, why do people always make the same mistake? Well, again, that is exactly the sort of great topic for blogs. If the people you meet are making that mistake, other people are making that mistake, other people are looking up what to do about it on the internet, or indeed they're looking to share those sorts of ones. There is also, should you be really stuck for ideas, something called the HubSpot blog topic generator, which if you go into it, I'll just see if I can call it up. Here we go. Works very nicely. Not every idea is a winner, but enough of them are ideas. So it says enter a noun. So we'll pretend I am stuck for ideas on my favourite topic of, so I won't do public relations, I'll try, not blogging, blogging. So we add a noun. Enter a noun to get, well, I'm going to, I want to talk about, let's see, let's get contentious. We'll talk about Brexit, and I also want to talk about, we're here on the one about blogging for consultants. So we'll put blogging for consultants. Give me blog ideas. The last time I did this, it took a few seconds to, oh, here we go. Blogging, expectations versus reality. That sounds a pretty plausible one. Will Brexit ever rule the world? Well, it certainly rules the media. The next big thing in consultants. Blogging explained in fewer than 140 characters. This week's top stories about Brexit. Best move on from that. Where will consultants be a year from now? Anyway, you get the idea that maybe not every one of those is a winner for you, but it certainly throws up plenty of good ideas. Another idea, many people on this will go to business networking events. Maybe if you go to somewhere like BNI or whatever, where you stand up and make a talk, get, flag up that you'd like some ideas for blogs, or indeed listen to what other people are saying, the problems they've got. That's probably a good topic for a blog as well. Brainstorming with clients, friends, anyone is a very powerful way of getting ideas. But what I would say is the problem often isn't the shortage of ideas, it's the lack of focus of the blog. And what I would suggest right at the start, both to help with coming up ideas, but also for as part of your marketing activity, is to write a written description, maybe a charter for your blog about what it is. A lot of the problems with blogs come from perhaps slightly from their history, which was that they came, people would just use them for posting random news. Indeed, we remember the first blogs were more like diaries, and people just listed all the random stuff they were doing. So many blogs are just a random depository of news. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a random depository of news, but at the same time, why would anyone want to subscribe to it? And are your people that you're targeting able to find the right sort of stuff amongst all the random announcements? Maybe you should have two blogs. Maybe you should have your news posted elsewhere. These are things for you to consider. But either way, you should write a charter for your blog, which is who is it for? And if your marketing has personas, link it very much to these personas. Who, what are the types of people you're after? What are their personalities? What are their archetypes? That sort of thing. I can't really go, if you're not familiar with personas, I can't really go into them on this call, but do look them up, or do drop me an email and I'll send you more information about them. But link your blog, your charter, to your personas. Be clear about what its objectives and purpose is. Is its objective indeed about just having some really intelligent articles that you can send to people and you're not really expecting that much traffic? That might be the purpose. Or maybe your purpose is very much to appear prominently on Google and have lots of inbound leads, in which case you're going to have to up the frequency. You want to talk in that charter about what content you want, but very much what content to exclude. Somebody in your firm has done a little charity fundraiser. Is that something for your blog? For some people's blog it is, for some people's blog it isn't, and for other people they don't really know, but they stick it up there because it's a quiet week and they need something to go. So think about that, have a focus, but most importantly, once you have more of a focus for your blog, it's actually far easier to come up with good ideas for it. If your blog is simply, we're going to write about anything for anyone, it's actually very hard to come up with good ideas with such a vague purpose for it. If your blog is very specific, for instance, you want to write about articles that are relevant to the Chief Information Officer of large companies in the technology space, actually that sort of focus makes it easier to start to come up with ideas and to promote it than have a vague everything for everybody focus or lack of focus. So your blog has been launched, or maybe you already have one and you're looking to revive it. How do you keep the energy and the impetus going past the third week? Well, number one, have an editorial calendar. Who is going to be contributing what, and what is it they're writing on? Have the brainstorm meeting at the start of the quarter or at the month, and have ideas. Don't leave it that someone will have a good idea a week on Tuesday when it's their scheduled bit. The chances are they won't, they'll be too busy, they'll move on, it won't happen, momentum will die, and that will be the end of it. So have a clear set of, have a clear calendar with clear themes scheduled, whether it's monthly, quarterly, whatever, but at the start make sure everyone knows what they're doing when it's needed. Have it in the diary. For you personally, or for your writers, do think about such things as, are you a lark who likes to write and be at your best in the morning, or are you a night owl? Schedule it for the sort of time that works for you. Do you want to do it in the office before everyone arrives, or at home on a Thursday night when everyone else is in bed? What works best for you? Delegate, particularly, delegate as much as possible. Perhaps delegate the researching of the theme to people, so that maybe you've got a few good articles in front of you, you can or some facts in front of you when you come to do it. Maybe delegate the writing. If you're not great at writing, just get a ghostwriter in. Or maybe you are good, you're not good at writing, but you've got lots of ideas in your head and you're good at dictating. Then dictate them. There's lots of virtual PAs or secretaries or whatever who'll write it up for you very cheaply. Maybe you'll even manage to get some of the dictation software to do it well, although for me that's a bit of a frustrating process. But certainly for me, dictating it into a dictaphone, emailing it to someone, having it come back in a written form works very well. If you're maybe doing the writing, get someone else to faff around with all the software for making sure it's posted, look pretty, laid out, nice headings, all of that sort of thing. Someone else can handle that. And indeed, have a system for promoting it that allows you to be sure that it's happening, but not necessarily doing it yourself. So the more of the different tasks you can break down, the more effective your time can be on the core bits that are relevant to you. But whether you're doing it yourself or whatever, the key thing is to have a proofreader. No matter how brilliant your proofreading, if you've read an article 3 or 4 times, you will be oblivious to errors in it. Always make sure there is someone who is a proofreader, but if they're doing the writing or they're involved in the posting and things like that, they will suffer the same problems as well. So have a have a proofreader. It's worth bearing in mind that even the world's best writers, whether it's book authors or journalists, they always have their stuff proofread. If they can have it proofread, so should you. So, engage in your team, because the key thing within an organisation is not just doing it yourself, and indeed perhaps your role is simply to get other people to be writing these ones. So first of all, start selling them the big picture to why you're doing it, not we have this editorial calendar and you must do 3 a month. Sell the big picture about how this blogging programme helps them, helps the organisation deliver the big objectives for it. And quite frankly, if your blog isn't delivering some of the big objectives for it, people aren't really going to be that motivated about it. So there needs to be this link. Why is this blog important to your firm, important to people? Why is senior management taking it as important? Do make it easy for them. We've talked about various things for making the blogging process less easy. If people are given lots of requirements, it goes through a 28-stage review process and the whole thing is tortuous, it clearly is going to be very hard to get them motivated for it. So make it easy for them around the topic, perhaps ensuring training, perhaps supplying a ghostwriter. Professional people are motivated by positive feedback. This could be positive in the sense of stroking them and making them feel good, or it could be positive in the sense that here are people we need to exceed against. You will have to be the judge of whether your firm is one that works from nice feedback or competitive feedback. Either way, people need to get some sort of feedback on the results it's getting and how they can improve for the next time, and indeed how they are contributing to the firm's goals. So think about the right way to give feedback, whether it's performance figures or something a bit more descriptive, and above all, they need to get recognition for their efforts. If they've spent lots of hours at the weekend writing the blog and all they get is it was posted, that isn't going to be very motivational. If they get an email from the boss, or indeed a call from the boss, or an email from the managing partner saying these blogs are excellent, keep up the good work, that is going to have far more effect. And indeed, for engaging people, make sure there is a clear process, editorial calendar, and that their efforts are rewarded with the post looking great and the promotion being effective and efficient, so they haven't just done a blog that rests up there and no one sees it. Now, we've talked about various reasons for having a blog. I want to look a little bit more detail about maximising the search engine optimization impact. Now, many people feel that search engine optimization is all about the dark arts of SEO agencies. Now, there are some dark arts there, but you don't need to know them to get at least 90% of the way. If you're in an ultra competitive area and you're not getting onto the top page, then you definitely need them. But my experience with many consultancies is they are in areas where if they do the right steps, they can actually get most of the way there themselves. So how do you go about it? Well, the first thing is you need to have a key phrase. These are the sorts of phrases that people will be searching on Google, because it's very straightforward. If you have in your article the sorts of key phrases that people are searching on, Google will start to match you with them. It will realise this article is very relevant for this sort of person. So you need to flag this up to Google. So how do you go about knowing what are the key phrases that your likely audience will be searching? Well, first of all, going back to, you have a persona. So for instance, you have a consultancy practice which is all about, let's say it's all about compliance, financial compliance. Is financial compliance a phrase people would use in their searches, or would they put in search phrases like help with tax, help with regulations, help with implementing a particular directive? What would be the phrases they use? Because you need to have a list of the sorts of phrases. If you listened to our webinar a couple of weeks ago about Google AdWords, Dominic went through this in much more detail about how to use Google to help you generate these sorts of things. If you did attend that webinar, perhaps go back to that one and refresh yourself. If you didn't attend that webinar, all is not lost. We'll be sharing details a little later on how you can get a recording of it. But ultimately, you need this key phrase list. You need to be thinking about what are their problems, what are their likely search phrases. Once you've got this phrase, it's very straightforward in your blog. You want it to appear there quite a few times, not millions of times, and don't do silly things like put it in lots of times in white text, or these sorts of techniques that went out about 15 years ago. But what you should be doing is making sure that sort of phrase appears in the heading and in subheadings. It needs you should have at least one image in your blog. All the research shows that blogs with one image get far more visitors than blogs with no images. However, there's no extra benefit from putting 2, 3 or 4 images. You might want to do that for aesthetic reasons, but for search engine traffic purposes, the key thing is to have at least one image, and within the meta text and heading on that image, make sure that, again, your phrase appears there. Make sure the phrase appears in the blog URL. That's particularly important. So if your blog, given the previous example, is on Making Tax Digital, make sure your URL address includes mtd-making tax digital. Make sure the meta text is compelling, so that when people see it on Google when they're searching, the meta text is what appears, so that needs to grab them and make them want to click to read further. And if you've got external links, which is a good thing to do, make sure that now and again they aren't broken. There's tools for doing these sorts of things. And if you can generate incoming links from other websites, from social media, these sorts of things, this again makes Google more likely to rank that page. So that's why it's important to promote your blogs. Ultimately, you need to have a fast loading website. The faster your website loads, the more Google likes it and is more likely to recommend it, and the higher you appear, more traffic you get. So all of those things are sort of straightforward. However, the next thing is traffic to your website is no good if people read your blog, disappear off, never come back again. So the first thing, of course, to get in lots of leads as opposed to lots of traffic is still to make sure it's well SEO'd, optimized, to get more people coming to it and get it well promoted on social media. Clearly, the quality is important. It needs to be interesting and memorable content, so people go, wow, these people are great, we'll either get in contact with them or we'll subscribe to get more of this stuff, or we'll download the full report, whatever it is the step you want them to take. However, a big downfall of many blogs and indeed many web pages is that people just assume that if people like it, they'll hunt around on the page and find a small phone number tucked away somewhere, or they'll go back to the top of the blog and find the contact us and click and click and click. That's not how it works. If you go to high-performing sales websites and consumer websites, they have various techniques. They have the calls to action in various places. They also experiment because different text can have dramatically different results. Indeed, simply different colour call to action blogs, buttons can have different effectiveness as well. So they typically will split test to see which ones have the most effect. If you're sophisticated enough to be doing split testing, definitely do that. But either way, what you want to have is calls to action at various parts of the blog, at the end, at the middle and at the start, not just in one place. And ultimately experiment for what's working with you, see what works best, start to replicate it across your other blogs. Other things. Well, we mentioned that people will look at the blog and make a quick decision as to whether it's worth their time or not. So make it easy to skim with boldings, headings, italics, images, lists, all of these sorts of things, so people can skim through it, decide whether it's useful and decide whether they invest their time to keep going through. Because after all, if these things grab their attention, then they will want to spend more time on it. If they just see 2,000 words of type, they're probably going to think, oh dear, I'm not going to invest, and they'll move on. Do add more links to particularly other text and other blogs and content on your website. Ultimately, you want people to engage with you by moving around your website, seeing lots of relevant stuff to them, then thinking, well, that's been a good experience. We'll either use these people, or they're very valuable. We'll make sure we subscribe or favourite the page or recommend or whatever. So make it easy within the text of it for people to find relevant content. Don't just think they'll plough their way through your drop-down menus. They're probably not going to do that. And within your mind, building on that point, do have some sort of clear funnel, conversion funnel in your mind. Someone reads your blog. What is it you want them to do next? What is it you want them to do after that? And then construct your pages and your website to particularly point people in that direction, rather than, just they drift around and you hope they'll find your contact us page. For many people, pop-ups have a bad reputation, because we've all had those websites in the dim and distant past where you went onto them and like millions of pop-ups appeared. My view is that pop-ups done discreetly and thoughtfully aren't a terrible imposition on website visitors. Certainly it's something for you to experiment with. Put them on some pages, put them elsewhere, split test, see whether they work or not. Now, for your blog, you've put all this effort in, you've spent lots of time and resources. How do you go about measuring the impact? So, this is all about, first of all, thinking about what your objectives were, because you want to measure against your objectives. So if your if your objective was to be better known and easier to find, then you need to have a metric around, were you easier to find? And have people got to know your areas of expertise more. So this might be through tracking how people come around your website. Has the blog got people to start going around your website? Has it helped contribute by improving your search engine rankings? Are you getting more traffic? All of these sorts of things are things that you can start to track very straightforwardly, but it's only useful to do so if that is one of your objectives. If your objective was, by contrast, to have 3 or 4 good articles a year that you share with clients and you put it on the website to make it easy to do, then you want a different set of objectives around whether the small number of clients you sent it to engaged with it, whether by reading it, opening the email, looking at it, sharing it on social media. So these sorts of things need to be thought through. What are your objectives? Have metrics that reflect those objectives rather than just have a template of objectives because everyone else does that. What it is worth doing, though, is going a bit beyond Google Analytics, although that's a very useful first place to think about such things as, is it contributing to your overall domain authority? Is it contributing to you getting more links? And you can start to measure those. You can look at traffic and source, and also you can analyze particular pages. I mentioned we have some particular successful ones. Some of ours aren't very successful. I can compare those and learn accordingly in terms of topic or how we presented them, that sort of thing. But certainly the thing to do is to review data regularly, maybe if you're not blogging frequently, quarterly, but if you are reviewing, I would do it monthly and look at particular blogs. So for instance, because we use HubSpot, we get quite a lot of data through that. I don't know if this is particularly clear, but this is one particular printout, it's a screenshot of one blog. You can see it is attracting a fair amount of regular traffic. We can get breakdown of whether that traffic came from organic Google search, direct traffic, social media, referrals. We can click further into that to see, for instance, in social media, whether it was Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever it came from. We can get further to see whether it was particular domains, and because LinkedIn tracks people when they register, we can see whether it's repeat. First of all, we can see whether it generated new leads. We can track whether those leads follow through to clients on it. And indeed, within your CRM system, if these sorts of things are possible, if you want to know if your blog is generating subscribers who convert into prospects, who convert into leads, you can look at how you can join these things up in the CRM behind the scenes so that you have this sort of data as well. So we are nearly at the end of our allotted hour, so I would invite questions, further questions from people. I would just like to say a little bit, first of all, before tackling questions, about our blogging services. We offer a standard service for clients. Indeed, several clients have it, and which is that we will do a full blogging service where we write 4 blogs, typically of around 350 to 450 words per month. We'll do longer blogs at a different service, but if people just want to get frequency of blogging done, we will do that. It includes an initial mobilization and planning workshop. We'll also, for each blog, be drafting 16 LinkedIn posts and 20 tweets to make sure these are well promoted to your network and beyond. And indeed, because we're a PR agency, if we write blogs on these on a particular subject and we get press inquiries about them, or they crop up on the services we subscribe, we'll be also promoting you to these and your comments in these blogs to journalists for them to requote or use in articles as well. So if you are looking for a particular blogging service, or you're looking for more impact from your blogs, bear us in mind. And what I'd also say is that some of our clients, we actually take their blogs and use them as articles in the media as well. So if you've got some really good blogs and you want them to appear more widely in credible media, that's something we do as a standard service as well. I mentioned we have various webinars online, and we have ones coming up. We are close to the end of our autumn season. We'll be kicking off again in January with Building a Business Winning Reputation, which is all about getting your communication strategy right for 2020. As Sun Tzu, that well-known ancient Chinese general, says, tactics without strategy is the sound of failure. So don't let your tactics, your great initiatives in 2020 simply be the sound of failure. Make sure there is a communication strategy that is unifying your messages, thought leadership, public relations and other activity. You can download that Google Ads webinar I mentioned, which is all the details about how to create a list of key phrases from the insights Google can provide. And we've got recorded webinars around maximising thought leadership and indeed also getting in the media. Okay, questions? Right. Okay, thank you very much for this question, which is how do I get more internal buy-in? Okay, well, I think clearly the worst way to get internal buy-in would be something like everyone else is doing it, we should do it. Now, I'm not saying that logic is wrong, but it's not very motivational. So the key thing is, going back to what I said earlier and building on it, is your blog needs to link back to a big objective. For instance, what is the big sales objective for your practice? So how does the blog link to that? Maybe your objective is around winning, improving your win rate with proposals. Maybe you aren't seen particularly as experts compared to your competitors. Maybe you're seen as too generalist. How would the blog link to achieving that objective? So think about what is the key objectives for the year or for the quarter or whatever it is that this blog is contributing to. The bigger the objective, the more the blog contributes, the more important it is, the more people will want to buy into it. Yes, it is worth doing a search of what your competitors are doing and seeing those that are doing it well. Professionals are by their nature often very cautious people, and they do want the verification that other people are doing it. Clearly, with consultants, there's no shortage of big consultancies doing it really well, and indeed McKinsey grew, one of the things that helped McKinsey grow to be the leading strategy consultancy, one of the best known consultancy firms globally, was its McKinsey Quarterly, which was a quarterly journal of its best ideas written up as articles, and this has transformed into the McKinsey blog as well. So but maybe these firms are a bit out of your league or not in your market. So it's worth looking at comparable firms, not just the industry leaders, but there's certainly no shortage of industry leaders blogging and who've built their whole business on the basis of fabulous articles. On top of that, you need to do a business case of time and resources to do it properly, perhaps with an initial trial, but play down expectations. You know, McKinsey didn't become the world's leading strategy consultancy based on 3 editions of its quarterly. It's been doing it about 60 years now. So don't oversell, although at the same time do put the big picture in there and build in metrics so people can see how progress is being made, how what they're doing is contributing to the big goal. Okay, got a question here. As a consultancy with multiple service areas, is it better to target 2 or 3 service areas annually, or have every service line contributing content on a less intensive basis? I think this is a common problem for many firms. So I think the issue here is that, is the blog contributing to the overall firm? So your firm is active in this case it's pricing. So say your firm is active in pricing, so you want to appear prominently on things to do with pricing, so it's less important which practice area it is, as long as something is up there on pricing, and that will draw in people, whether it's specific to that pricing or about practice or not. Or that might be one way of thinking about it, or the other bit might be we face competitors in each of our markets. We need fresh content and to be promoting each of our practice areas, because if, for instance, we want to target the pharmaceutical sector, and they see there's nothing on pharmaceuticals, but there's loads of stuff on computer games or whatever a practice area might be, that's not going to help us. So I think the first thought is the purpose of the blog to help the firm overall, or is the blog important for each practice area? If the blog is important to each practice area, then that rather answers that question, because each practice has got to keep promoting itself with this as part of their their initiative. If overall the whole point of the blog is just to help the firm by having content on whatever practice area up there, my thought would be that yes, you want to concentrate your resources, and you probably want to concentrate your resources on those areas that are going to embrace blogging, and not sort of move it around all the time so that you end up with putting a lot of effort into people who aren't really that enthused about it. I hope that sort of answers the questions. If not, I will fire the questions through to me. We've run out of time, but I'm very happy to take further questions and answer them either by email or indeed put them on the blog that will be accompanying this afterwards, as I believe in practicing what I preach on these things. Thank you very much for joining me on this webinar. I hope it was useful. We'll be sending you through a survey questionnaire afterwards. Be very grateful if you could find the time to give me your feedback on it. It'll only take a minute. Hope you have a good rest of your afternoon. From Tim Prizeman and my colleagues at Kelso Consulting, thank you very much and goodbye for now.